Hello everyone. Welcome to this fifth video in the series of five videos that we at Advait Consulting are doing to analyze the judgment of the Supreme Court in the case of Engineering Analysis Center of Excellence Private Limited versus CIT. The last four videos you have seen us analyze the background and the context in which this matter reached the Supreme Court. What were the arguments that were placed before the Supreme Court? And in video 3 and 4, we analyzed the judgment in detail and tried to bring out what were the principles that emerged out of this ruling. In this fifth video, I, Krishna Upadhyaya, lead direct taxes at Advait Consulting, and Ravinath Pai, chartered accountant from Cochin. We're going to analyze what could be the possible implications of this ruling on a go-forward basis.
Yes, thank you, Krishna. So we will first need to step back and look at what happened in 2012. In 2012, the Finance Act was amended with retrospective effect from 1976 to bring in an explanation 4, which said that use or any right to use computer software also falls within the definition of royalty. So applying this Supreme Court decision, it is now very clear that it will not be applicable retrospectively. That the Supreme Court has made it very clear. So what happens from 2012 to the current date is what, and going forward is what we will be looking at in this video. Yes, Krishna.
So, despite the fact that the word computer software was brought into the law in 2012 as an explanation to Section 916, very interesting and important thing to note is that the Supreme Court in its judgment almost made it very clear there cannot be any other right which can be given in a computer software other than rights which are there in the copyright law. Given the fact that no other right can be given, and with the fact that a specific computer software inclusion was made in the law, does that still mean only if the right given is a right under the Copyright Act, will it become royalty or not? It's also interesting to note that all the ULAWs which were there before the Supreme Court, which it analyzed in detail, and the ULAWs which are generally entered into, makes it very clear the right that the user gets is only a right to use that computer software in the intended manner, but does not give any other right which the Copyright Act very particularly prescribes. So is this a possible argument? Maybe yes. Is this plausible? That position has to be tested before the courts. However, under the treaty, this argument will continue, and that this Supreme Court judgment is going to be applicable even on a go-forward basis.
Yes, that's a very important conclusion, Krishna, that under the treaty, you can still continue to apply this decision to state that use of computer software is not royalty. However, recently we have seen some reports that the UN model is proposed to be amended to include use of computer software within the royalty definition. However, we have to distinguish this change in UN model because they are amending the UN model convention and not the UN model commentary. If the change was made in the UN model commentary, that would have meant that that is applicable for interpretation of all DTAs which India has entered into, which are based on UN model. However, amendment in the UN model convention would mean that unless India bilaterally amendments the DTAs with other countries, which the Supreme Court also rightly referred to, there cannot be any change in position as far as the DTAs are concerned. We have also looked at different treaties which India has, and in certain treaties, there is also a reference to computer software. If you look at the DTA with Kazakhstan, it states that any right to use a copyright in respect of computer software will fall under the definition of royalty, which goes on to support what Krishna has already mentioned in his earlier discussion. Now, the next thing which we need to look at is what is the evolving model of software industry and what happens to different types of software payments which we are currently using.
The fact that the shrink wrap software and its taxation led into all this controversy has somewhat died down also because the model in which the computer software is delivered by the software makers to the customers are no more in a shrink wrapped manner. There are evolving models of software as a service, platform as a service, pay by usage, etc. In all these contexts, what the user is mainly interested in is not to understand the codes that are written or to copy those codes and do anything with it, but use that software merely to do certain things which the software allows you to do. In that context, does the argument still continue that the payments which are made are royalty is something that has to be evaluated in greater detail, has to be tested before courts to see whether the argument that I tried to put in place, which is based on the Supreme Court judgment, that a right which is a right under the Copyright Act alone constitutes royalty, and no other payments made towards any other usage would constitute royalty at all. Again, like I mentioned earlier, this argument needs to be very carefully laid out in the very strict fact pattern. This is very fact-based evaluation needs to be done, and only then conclusions on this can be arrived at.
Yes. And one interesting thing which is emerging is whether if it is not royalty, can it be considered as fees for technical service? And that is also something which the users will need to evaluate. There is an interesting angle to this controversy in the sense that there's a Delhi High Court decision in the case of Airtel which says that unless there is some human intervention, there cannot be the service cannot be considered as fee for technical service. So if you are rendering some service in a fully automated environment, whether the software or the service will be considered as FTS is again something which the users will need to evaluate based on their fact pattern.
It gets a little. Sorry, Ravi, you can continue.
No, we were saying that the lines between the royalty and the service are blurred, or fees for technical service are blurred, and it's very difficult for a user to evaluate whether it's use of software or use of service. Let's take an example. If I'm using a video editing software, I upload the video onto a website, they do the editing for me, and I download the edited video. So can you consider it as use of the software, or do I consider it as a service? Is a question which will come up again and again in this context.
So it gets more interesting with the introduction of equalization levy. So as everybody is aware, equalization levy has been levied in different avatars. It started with a certain avatar in 2016, then it moved on to evolve in different manners right now. Well, the discussion on equalization levy in itself is a very large debate. We do not want to do that in this video. However, while making a payment for usage of any of these softwares or any of such services that are available today, one needs to carefully evaluate the distinction between royalty, fees for technical services, business income, or possibly equalization levy.
Yeah, so if the payment is made to a non-resident, the non-resident might be liable to equalization levy. In that case, that income which the non-resident is receiving from a resident becomes exempt in the hands of the non-resident. So the resident payer who's making the TDS, the payment to the non-resident service provider or software vendor need not deduct TDS if the vendor is discharging equalization levy liability on such income. But from a deductor's perspective, how do I get to know whether the recipient is discharging equalization levy? Is a classic pigeon, is a classic hen or chicken egg problem, which is currently not resolved, and there are a lot of practical difficulties in interpreting this issue.
Absolutely. I think with this, we will conclude this series of analysis that we did on the Supreme Court judgment. I understand that this is not the end of it. There are more things that will keep emerging as we move forward into applying this Supreme Court judgment on various fact patterns that might come before us. We will also keep trying and coming back to you with more such analysis in future. Stay tuned to our YouTube channel. Also subscribe to our social media handles where we will bring out various such analysis in future. Leave your thoughts, comments, and recommendations in the comment section. And thanks a lot for watching this video series.
Thank you.